In almost every GTA game, only part of the map is available to the player to fully explore, with the other side being locked behind the story progression, so fully ignoring the missions and just going around to cause mayhem or to explore the cool and interesting parts of the map will be somewhat hindered. With the 3D games putting these do not cross signs on the bridges, accompanied by huge invisible walls to prevent the player from actually going over to the second islands. But when did that stop the players from doing so? As besides cheating your way over to them either by flying in a car or swimming or boating a car, I'm not sure what to call this, players have found tons of different methods, some easier than others, to cross over the bridges and explore the locked parts of the map whilst they aren't supposed to. Why did we all do that? And is there even something to do out there? Well, before talking about that, let's take a brief look at how each game separated the player from being able to go around the entire map from the very start, and the actual lore reasons Rockstar used to explain to us why we're in this situation to begin with. Starting off, I also want to go over the 2D era games, as both of them featured at least 3 separate areas for the main story, and the games work on a very arcadey system to progress and go over to the next district/city, with the player only needing to raise a big enough sum of cash, and then he's able to leave the current area that he's in, without ever needing to do a single payphone mission. But unlike modern GTAs, there's no way to glitch yourself into the next area. You either do the missions or find another way to earn money. Whether legitimate or not, it's really up to you. Or you remain forever stuck in that part of the game. And that's obviously because the areas aren't really connected, at least in GTA 1 that is, where you go from Liberty City to San Andreas and finally to Vice City. So hopping over a bridge was obviously not enough to get you to another side of the United States. But in GTA 2, all 3 areas, which are downtown, residential, and industrial, are all part of the bigger Anywhere City, which is the fictional location of this game. But just like in the first game, you can only move on to the next area after you earn enough money. And these districts aren't connected in any way, although I wish there was a mod out there that was able to connect all of them from the start and be able to do missions in any part of the city. How cool would that be? Moving over to the 3D era, Rockstar didn't require players to earn their way to newer parts of the map anymore. Instead, these games had a narrative now, and the arcadey nature remained only for the free roam mode outside of missions. So unlocking the other islands, like I stated in the beginning, required you to do missions. But accessing those areas wasn't at all impossible. Although the main bridge connecting Portland to Staunton Island was severely destroyed in the introduction cutscene by the cartel, you probably know that Claude can just jump on these hanging metal parts and make his way to Staunton completely on foot, as well as a few other methods, and those ones get crazier and crazier, but you probably know them already. Besides the main bridge, there is another way to the other parts of the map using the underground tunnel, but the entrance from Portland is blocked however, seemingly being under construction, which, as the news anchor says in the game, this leaves Portland completely isolated from the rest of the city, and even the subway is blocked for probably the same reasons. And even if you manage to cross from Portland to Staunton Island, why isn't Shortside Vale available either? Well, since those two are connected via a lift bridge, the game simply has it stuck all the way up and unusable to the traffic, and the reasons behind this is just the bridge's mechanical system being broken. But there's a way around this by just using the subway tunnels to access it at the start, unlike in Portland, so there's at least that. Beyond Shoreside Vale, however, there is another locked tunnel due to constructions taking place. This was done more so to give the illusion that the map isn't just an isolated island and that there's more land in the northern part. But that didn't stop people from speculating that this tunnel would somehow connect Liberty City to Carcer City. But since the city is mentioned to exist within the GTA Universe 2 and is apparently close to LC, there is some validity to this theory. Okay, but what about Liberty City stories? Since the game takes place 3 years earlier and there's no way that Portland Bridge suffered 2 attacks in that time span, what's the lore reason behind not being able to cross over in that game? Simple, the Portland Bridge is just being built, and the citizens are only able to cross over to the other islands using the ferry boat, as the tunnels connecting the islands aren't yet built. However, at the beginning of the game, the ferry workers are on strike, because those tunnels will mean they'll be out of jobs once the project is finished. And the same thing is happening on Staunton to Shoreside Vale as well. Crossing over in LCS is a bit trickier than in GTA 3, but not impossible. The methods require actual in-depth videos with explanations, so I'll leave a decent one in the description if you're interested. I wanted to talk more in depth about GTA 3 and LCS since those two are more interesting than the other ones, which I'll just briefly go over. In Vice City and Vice City Stories, Rockstar used the same excuse, or rather lore reason, as to why the bridges are locked. And instead of me explaining it, why not just go on a trip to memory lane with the famous interruption of the radio that happens at the very start.
We interrupt your programming with a message from the State Department. All bridges and some roads in the Vice City metropolitan area have been closed because of a severe weather warning. Meteorologists are tracking Hurricane Hermione, which has devastated 5 Caribbean islands and is heading for Vice City. More updates soon.
And like I said, this is the same reason used in VCS as well, since hurricanes are a common occurrence in Florida, or Leonida even. Reusing the same excuse for why we can't jump around islands is okay in this case. In GTA San Andreas, the player's ability to cross over doesn't even require glitches, as you can just swim across or take a plane from the LS airport and just fly anywhere you want, though the bridges are still there. And the lore reason behind them is a wave of earthquakes hitting the entire state of San Andreas. But that wouldn't be enough, because again, since crossing over doesn't even require glitches on the player's side and Rockstar knew that very well, they made sure we'd be permanently wanted by cops with a 4-star rating. And that's because Tempany doesn't want us to leave town and we're also apparently being watched. And that's somewhat similar to GTA 4, where in that game, since Nico arrived illegally in America and obviously doesn't have a visa, crossing over the bridges will result in an instant 6-star wanted level. Which is absolutely brutal, as you're being chased by the noose, annihilators in the sky, and even snipers on rooftops. The DLCs don't restrict the player in any way, and that's understandable. But I think Rockstar was pretty clever here, using Nico's background as an excuse to gradually unlock newer areas. And in GTA 5's case, well, we all know that it's the only game ever to not have any map restrictions, apart from the military base, which is probably the only one that would make sense. Although Trevor and Michael are restricted to go back to Los Santos for a while because they are hunted down by Martin Madrazo's men if they do come to the city. So there's at least that, and it's understandable why they couldn't really restrict anything, since there's only one main city and countryside in the northern part. GTA 6 will at least solve that, as it's been heavily hinted at from the trailer and the official artwork, where Lucia does have an ankle monitor. And I personally think that's probably the most clever way to date for Rockstar to implement geo-restrictions. No need for invisible walls or cops standing around the bridge either, just warn the players or perhaps even show on the map where you can go, similar to RDR2's red zones, and just instantly trigger a wanted level when the player inevitably decides to explore beyond his allowed location. And I'm glad that's the case for GTA 6, although since there's 2 main characters, there's a chance that we could just freely roam around the map as Jason, unless he gets unlocked as a playable protagonist only after we lose the ankle monitor, which wouldn't really be the best course of action, but we'll have to see. Now, once we do actually cross the bridges, what can you do in these areas? Apart from new places to create mayhem, at least in the earlier 3D era games, crossing over meant getting loaded with heavier and better weapons that aren't available in the first island, completing side activities like rampages, collecting packages, or whatever other form of collectible you have in your game of choice, or even acquire safe houses in Vice City's case, all of which are staples of what we call master saves, where you intentionally go for every side activity, collectible, and anything else that gives rewards and game completion percentage, all right before the very first mission. But aside from that, there's a unique feeling I get whenever I decide to load up a new game in Vice City and just go around the mainland. It's a feeling I can't quite describe. I love simply going around to knock over parking meters and get money to buy my first safe house, or go to the laundromat where I can get Tommy's only other outfit available at this point in the game, or going over to Fort Baxter to get the M60 and fight with the soldiers in the base. Or in San Andreas' case, there's nothing quite like listening to the radio whilst being chased by the SWAT, or having to dodge missiles from the Hydras while flying on your quest to collect heavy weapons and horseshoes in Las Venturas. Or perhaps go all the way to Area 69 and attempt to survive as long as you can. Again, I can't quite put my finger on it, but I absolutely love restrictions on the map set into place at the start for whatever lore reason, because it makes exploring the map that much more enjoyable, and once you eventually unlock them during the story mode, it's also that much better too. It's always been a staple of this franchise, and I'm very glad it's making its way back into the game after being gone for only one entry. The eerie feeling of being somewhere where you're not supposed to be and engaging with as many things as you can is quite unique. But what about you? Do you love exploring the areas way before they're even available, or do you just go for the main storyline to properly unlock them? And what's your favorite thing to do whilst being in these locked areas? Let me know in the comment section down below. And while you're there, also leave a like. And of course, consider subscribing if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching.